What if one simple act of kindness could transform your entire life overnight? Meet Marcus Thompson, a 17-year-old kid scraping by on $8 an hour, washing dishes until his hands go numb. Tonight, he's about to face a choice that will rewrite his destiny. The elderly couple at the corner table, frantically searching through empty pockets, looking lost and helpless. They're wealthier than most people could imagine, and they're here for a reason. As Marcus walks toward them carrying his own dinner, a meal he sacrificed 3 whole days to afford, he has absolutely no clue he's stepping into a test. The old man's sharp gray eyes aren't just thankful, they're watching, studying, measuring. The woman's expensive leather folder holds papers that will soon bear Marcus's name. But here's the incredible part. Marcus doesn't know any of this. He just sees 2 people who need help, and that's precisely what they're counting on. One moment of generosity, 2 hidden millionaires, a reward beyond comprehension. But let me take you back to the beginning, because to truly understand why what happens next is so extraordinary, you need to see what Marcus's life was really like. 5:30 every morning. The alarm clock next to Marcus's bed stopped working months ago. His body just knows when to wake up now. He rolls out of the same narrow twin bed he slept in since he was 8 years old, the same bed his mother bought him before the accident that changed everything. The floorboards groan as he tiptoes past his grandmother's room. Miss Dorothy is already awake. She always is at this hour. But she pretends to sleep because she knows Marcus worries about her. Through the paper-thin wall, he can hear the struggle in her breathing, the way every inhale sounds like work, even while she's lying down. Their house on Cedar Avenue tells its own story without words. The yellow paint has faded to the color of old newspapers left too long in the sun. The porch steps sag in the middle from years of footsteps. Windows stick closed, held together with duct tape because new ones cost money they'll never have. But Miss Dorothy keeps it spotless, immaculate even, because being poor doesn't mean losing your pride, she always tells him. Marcus pulls on the same jeans he wore yesterday, checks the pocket for his bus fare. $3.47. Enough to get to work, not enough to get back. He'll have to walk the 3 miles home tonight, but that's fine. He's walked farther for less. The walk to Parker's Diner takes him through neighborhoods that tell completely different stories. Past the beautiful houses with perfectly trimmed lawns and expensive cars in driveways. Past the apartment buildings where his friend Tommy lives, where the parking lot is full of potholes and shattered dreams. Past the old shopping center where older teenagers gather, smoking and planning futures that will probably never happen. Parker's Diner sits at the corner of 8th and Maple, a beacon of harsh fluorescent light in the pre-dawn darkness. Big Joe is already there, prepping for the morning rush. He nods at Marcus, not unfriendly, just focused. They don't talk much, but there's mutual respect there. Joe knows Marcus shows up every single day, works harder than employees twice his age, never complains about anything. In the kitchen, Marcus's hands move through the same familiar rhythm. Stack of plates, hot soapy water, scrub, rinse, dry, repeat. His hands are rough now, covered in calluses from months of this endless routine. Sometimes he looks at them and wonders if college hands look different, softer maybe, hands that hold textbooks instead of dish rags. The dishwashing station faces a small window that overlooks the parking lot. While he works, Marcus watches people come and go. Families heading to school and work. Construction crews grabbing coffee before heading to job sites. Business professionals in suits talking on their phones, all of them moving through lives he can only dream about. At 7:15, his shift ends. Time for the real challenge, school. Lincoln High School sits like a tired brick fortress on the east side of town. The building desperately needs paint. The computers are ancient and half the lockers don't even work anymore. But inside these walls, Marcus transforms. Here, he's not the kid who washes dishes for survival. He's the kid with perfect grades who tutors other students during his lunch break. Mrs. Henderson, his English teacher, notices him early on. "Marcus, you have a real gift with language," she tells him one afternoon. "Have you thought about college?" College, the word feels strange in his mouth. Kids like him don't go to college. Kids like him get jobs right out of high school if they're lucky, if they're really lucky. But Mrs. Henderson sees something different, something special. She starts bringing him applications, scholarship information, glossy pamphlets with pictures of campus greens and massive library buildings. "I can't afford it," Marcus tells her quietly, honestly. "Maybe not today," she says with conviction. But dreams have a way of finding funding when the dreamer is worthy enough. At lunch, while other kids buy hot meals from the cafeteria, Marcus eats peanut butter sandwiches he made at home and reads through college brochures. State universities, community colleges, business programs. The numbers are staggering, overwhelming. Even with financial aid, it would take everything Miss Dorothy has and more, so much more. After school, the cycle continues without pause. More dishwashing at Parker's. The evening crowd is different. Families celebrating small victories, couples on dates, elderly people making their meals stretch as long as possible to fight off the loneliness. Marcus watches them all, really watches them. He notices things other people miss. The way the woman at table 3 carefully counts her change before ordering. The way the businessman at the counter leaves generous tips on nights when the wait staff looks exhausted. The way kindness moves through the diner in small gestures and quiet moments that nobody else seems to see. At home, Miss Dorothy waits in her worn recliner, oxygen tank humming softly beside her like a mechanical companion. She's 73 but looks much older. Diabetes, arthritis, high blood pressure. Her body is failing her piece by piece, but her spirit stays strong, unbreakable. "How was your day, sweetheart?" She asks the same question every single evening. "Good, Grandma. Yours. Better now that you're home," she always says. They don't talk about the pills she can barely afford anymore. They don't talk about the doctor visits she's been skipping. They don't talk about the college applications hidden deep in his backpack. Some conversations are too heavy for evening light, too painful to speak out loud. Instead, they watch the news together, stories about other people's successes, other people's tragedies, other people's lives that seem to happen in a completely different universe from theirs. But tonight is different. Tonight, Marcus will make a choice that changes absolutely everything. He just doesn't know it yet. What he also doesn't know is that for the past 3 days, someone has been watching him closely, asking questions about the young man who helps elderly neighbors with their groceries, who tutors kids for free at the public library, who gives up his bus fare to make sure Miss Dorothy has lunch money. Someone who's about to put that character to the ultimate test, the test that will determine his entire future. November rain in this part of town doesn't just fall, it attacks without mercy. Tonight, it hammers against Parker's diner windows like bullets, turning the parking lot into a battlefield of puddles and rushing water. Marcus scrapes his last table of the evening shift, his stomach hollow with anticipation and hunger. For 3 days straight, he's been saving every single penny for this moment. No snacks after school, no soda with lunch, walking instead of taking the bus both ways, all for the simple pleasure of buying his own meal, sitting down like a regular customer instead of working behind the scenes like he always does. The burger and fries waiting at the pickup counter represent so much more than food to him. They represent choice, freedom. For once, Marcus gets to decide what he eats instead of settling for whatever's cheapest or whatever's left over. But as he reaches for his tray, something makes him stop cold. Table 8. The corner booth is usually reserved for couples on dates or families celebrating birthdays. Tonight, it holds 2 figures who look completely out of place, out of time. An elderly couple, both soaked to the bone, water dripping from their expensive clothes. The woman's silver hair drips steadily onto her designer coat. Even waterlogged, Marcus can tell the coat cost more than he makes in 2 months, maybe 3. Her husband sits perfectly straight despite his age, but his expensive suit clings to him like wet newspaper. They ordered coffee, nothing else, just coffee, and they've been nursing those same 2 cups for over an hour now. Marcus watches from behind the counter as the woman opens her purse for the 4th time, maybe the 5th. Her movements grow more frantic, more desperate with each search. She dumps the contents onto the table, tissues, reading glasses, breath mints, lipstick, but no wallet, no money clip, nothing of value. She whispers something urgent to her husband, something Marcus can't quite hear. He pats down his coat pockets, then his pants pockets, then back to his coat again. The shake of his head tells the story before he even speaks a word. "I don't understand," the woman says loud enough for Marcus to hear clearly now. "I had it when we left the house this morning. I'm absolutely sure I had it." Her husband checks his pockets again, more desperately this time, more frantically. He pulls out an antique gold pocket watch, examines it as if money might magically appear behind its ornate face. Nothing, nothing at all. Linda, the evening waitress, approaches their table with obvious reluctance, visible discomfort. She's worked here long enough to recognize the signs immediately. Nice people, terrible situation. The kind of problem that breaks your heart but doesn't pay the bills or keep the lights on. Folks, I hate to bother you, she holds the check between two fingers like it might bite her, but the woman's face crumbles, falls apart right there. We're so embarrassed, she says, her voice breaking. We seem to have misplaced our wallets somehow. I don't know how this happened. This has never happened before in our lives. Through fragments of their hushed conversation, Marcus pieces together their story like a puzzle. Their luxury car broke down on the interstate 2 miles from the nearest exit. They walked through the brutal storm to find help, hopping to call their son from the diner's pay phone. But the pay phone is broken, held together with electrical tape and desperate hope, hasn't worked in months. The man's voice carries decades of authority, even in defeat, even in this humiliating moment. Perhaps we could leave something as collateral, he suggests with dignity. I have my watch and my wife has some important papers in her folder. I'm sorry, Linda interrupts gently, genuinely apologetic, but Joe has a strict policy about this. No exceptions ever. Big Joe himself appears from the kitchen, arms crossed over his massive chest. He's not cruel, not heartless, just practical, realistic. The diner operates on razor-thin margins. Free meals, even for desperate elderly couples, simply can't happen. Not if he wants to keep the doors open, not if he wants to keep people employed. Look, folks, Joe says, his voice softer than his expression suggests, I wish I could help, but business is business. We understand completely, the man says quickly, rising from the booth with whatever dignity he has left. Come, Catherine, we'll figure something out somehow. Catherine clutches a worn leather portfolio against her chest like a shield, like armor. For just a moment as she stands, Marcus catches sight of what's inside. Official-looking documents, certificates of some kind, and something with an embossed gold logo that seems strangely familiar, though he can't place where he's seen it before. The couple moves toward the door, their dignity intact but their pride clearly wounded, clearly shattered. Outside, the storm rages with renewed fury, with renewed violence. Lightning illuminates the empty parking lot where their broken-down luxury car waits like a stranded island in a sea of rain. They can't go back out in that, Linda murmurs, watching through the rain-streaked window. Not at their age, not in this weather. It's dangerous. But Joe has already turned away, back to his kitchen, back to the business of staying afloat, of survival. Marcus looks at his untouched meal on the counter, still waiting, still warm. The burger is still hot. Fries are still crispy. The reward for 3 days of sacrifice, sitting there while two people who clearly lived very different lives face humiliation he understands too well. He sees the elderly couple reach the door. The man's hand is on the handle when Catherine stops, looking back at the warm diner they're about to leave for the cold, wet night that waits outside. That's when Marcus makes his choice, his life-changing choice. But what he doesn't know, what he can't possibly know, is that this moment has been 3 days in the making, that the broken-down luxury car in the parking lot has been strategically positioned there, that the lost wallet is safely tucked in Catherine's coat pocket this very moment, that Robert's antique watch has a hidden compartment containing more cash than Marcus makes in an entire year. He's about to walk into the most important test of his life, disguised as a simple act of kindness, disguised as an ordinary moment. Marcus doesn't think about consequences. He just moves, acts on instinct. His meal sits on the counter, still warm, still waiting, still representing 3 days of careful sacrifice and planning. But watching Catherine's shoulders slump as she faces the storm-lashed parking lot, something inside him simply decides without hesitation. Linda, he calls out, crossing the diner in quick strides. Hold on a second. The elderly couple turns slowly. Catherine's eyes are rimmed red, whether from embarrassment or the cold rain or both, Marcus can't tell. Robert's pale gray eyes fix on him with startling intensity, piercing intensity, as if he's seeing Marcus for the very first time, as if he's looking straight through him. Folks, Marcus says, approaching their table with his untouched tray in hand, this one's on me tonight. Please. Silence falls over the diner like a blanket. Catherine blinks rapidly, fighting back tears. Oh, sweetheart, that's incredibly kind, but we couldn't possibly accept this. It wouldn't be right. Please, Marcus sets the burger and fries in front of them, then slides into the booth without invitation, without hesitation. My grandmother always says kindness is the only thing that multiplies when you give it away freely. Robert's gaze never wavers from Marcus's face, never breaks away. Something flickers behind those pale gray eyes, calculation, recognition, something Marcus can't quite identify, but his voice remains steady, dignified, controlled. Son, this is your meal. You worked hard for this. And I can work for another one, Marcus responds simply. He flags Linda down with a quick wave. Can you bring them some fresh coffee and maybe see if Big Joe will let you use the kitchen phone to call about their car? Linda nods, understanding immediately, getting it. Tony's garage is still open this time of night. He does emergency towing 24/7. As Linda bustles away efficiently, Marcus turns back to the couple with a genuine smile. I'm Marcus, by the way, Marcus Thompson. Robert the man says, extending a hand that feels surprisingly strong for his age, surprisingly firm. And this is my wife, Catherine. Catherine's hands shake visibly as she reaches for a French fry, and Marcus pretends not to notice her trembling fingers. We haven't eaten since breakfast this morning, she admits quietly, almost ashamed. Our car broke down on Highway 47 and we walked here in the rain. We thought we had our wallet with us, but she trails off, too embarrassed to continue. Cars break down all the time, Marcus says simply, matter-of-factly. Happens to everyone eventually. Robert studies him with those penetrating gray eyes, studying every detail. You work here, don't you? After school and weekends. Saving for college. Yes, sir, Marcus confirms. What do you want to study? Business administration, Marcus says, then shrugs self-consciously. Maybe something that could help my community improve things. Sounds silly, probably sounds impossible. Not silly at all, Robert's voice carries an authority that seems completely at odds with his current desperate situation. Tell me about your community. What would you change? It's an odd question from a stranded traveler, from someone in crisis, but Marcus finds himself answering anyway, opening up. Lincoln High needs better computers desperately. The neighborhood could use a medical clinic closer by. People have to travel across town for basic care, basic treatment. And there's this old shopping center that's been abandoned for years. Prime real estate just sitting there empty, wasted. Catherine and Robert exchange a meaningful glance, a look that carries weight. She clutches her leather portfolio tighter against her chest, protective. And again, Marcus catches a glimpse of that embossed gold logo, that strange symbol. Something about it tugs at his memory, scratches at the back of his mind, but he can't place it, can't remember where he's seen it. Linda returns with the fresh coffee and important news. Tony's on his way now. Should be here in 20 minutes or so. Thank you so much, Robert says graciously, then turns back to Marcus with renewed focus. What's your last name again, son? Thompson, Marcus Thompson. Robert pulls out an expensive business card holder made of real leather with gold corners, then pauses deliberately. Instead of selecting one of the elegant cards inside, he reaches for a plain napkin and writes carefully on it with an expensive pen. Marcus Thompson, Robert repeats as if testing how the name sounds, as if memorizing it. And your home address. The question seems oddly formal, strangely specific, but Marcus gives it anyway without thinking. 1427 Cedar Avenue. Catherine whispers something urgent to her husband, gesturing toward her mysterious portfolio with intensity. Robert nods slowly and turns back to Marcus with a new expression. Son, Robert says, his tone shifting to something that sounds almost ceremonial, almost formal. What you did tonight. Giving up your meal for complete strangers. Tells me everything I need to know about your character, your true nature. It's just food, Marcus protests, uncomfortable with the praise. You needed it more than I did right now. Just food, Robert smiles, but there's something behind it that makes Marcus feel like he's missing something important, something significant. Catherine, show him please. Catherine hesitates for a long moment, then opens her portfolio slightly, just enough. Inside, Marcus glimpses official documents, certificates with fancy seals and ribbons, and what looks like architectural blueprints, detailed plans. Everything bears that same gold logo he can't quite identify, can't quite place. We're not just stranded travelers, Catherine says carefully, choosing her words precisely. We're here for business. Very important business that involves this community. Before Marcus can ask what kind of business requires architectural blueprints and official certificates, Tony's tow truck rumbles into the parking lot, its headlights cutting through the rain like searchlights. Robert stands, straightening to his full impressive height. In the harsh fluorescent light of the diner, his bearing transforms completely. Gone is the helpless elderly man. In his place stands someone who clearly expects to be obeyed, respected, listened to without question. Tony, Robert calls out as the mechanic enters, shaking rain from his worn coat. "Yes, sir. You the folks with the luxury sedan?" "We are." Robert's tone is crisp, businesslike, commanding. "How quickly can you have it running again?" Tony scratches his head thoughtfully. "Well, sir, it depends on what's wrong with it exactly. Might need to tow it back to the shop, run some diagnostics, check everything out." "Money is not an issue whatsoever," Robert interrupts firmly. "Whatever it takes, whatever it costs." Marcus blinks in confusion. 30 minutes ago, this man couldn't afford a cup of coffee or a simple meal. Now he's telling a mechanic that money is no object, no concern. As they prepare to leave, Robert pauses at the table where Marcus still sits, trying to process what just happened, trying to understand. "Son," Robert says, placing a firm hand on Marcus's shoulder, "you've given us something far more valuable than a meal tonight, something money can't buy, and I want you to know we don't forget kindness like this." He slips the napkin with Marcus's information into his coat pocket like it's a precious document, like it's valuable. Catherine steps forward, still clutching her mysterious portfolio protectively. "Marcus, what you did tonight means more than you realize right now, more than you can possibly imagine at this moment." "It was just," Marcus begins weakly. "It was character," Robert interrupts with intensity, pure, unselfish character. The kind that's rarer than diamonds and more valuable than gold, more precious than anything money can buy. As they head toward the door with Tony, Robert turns back one final time. The storm has finally passed and street lights illuminate his profile clearly. For just a moment in that light, he looks strangely familiar, not like someone Marcus has met before, but like someone he's seen somewhere. In a newspaper maybe, or on television news. "We'll be in touch very soon," Robert says, and something in his voice makes it sound less like a polite goodbye and more like a serious promise, more like a contract. The luxury car starts on the first try, engine purring smoothly. As the expensive vehicle disappears into the night, Marcus sits alone in the empty diner, staring at his reflection in the rain-streaked window, trying to understand what just happened. Something extraordinary just occurred, but he can't quite put his finger on what exactly, can't quite grasp it. What he doesn't know is that Robert is already on his phone making urgent calls that will change everything, calls that will alter Marcus's entire future. The first call is to his personal assistant. "Cancel all my morning meetings immediately. I need complete background checks, academic records, and character references for a young man named Marcus Thompson. Full report by tomorrow." The second call is to his personal lawyer. "Draft the paperwork we discussed in detail. I think we found our candidate finally." The third call will happen at exactly 9 o'clock tomorrow morning to the principal of Lincoln High School. But for now, Marcus just sits in the quiet diner, wondering why giving away his dinner feels like the beginning of something much bigger than hunger, much more significant than a simple meal. The diner feels different after they leave, different somehow. Quieter, like the air itself is holding its breath, waiting. Linda approaches Marcus's table, shaking her head in amazement, in disbelief. "Honey, I've been waitressing for 15 years straight, and I've never seen anything quite like that before." "Like what exactly?" Marcus asks, still staring out the window where the luxury car disappeared into the darkness. "You just gave your dinner away to complete strangers, your own meal that you saved 3 days to buy," Linda says. She slides into the booth across from him. Most people would have looked the other way, would have ignored them. "Most people aren't raised by Miss Dorothy Thompson," Marcus says simply. Linda laughs warmly. "That grandmother of yours sure did something right, raised you properly." She pauses, studying his face carefully. "But there was something strange about that couple, don't you think? Something off." Before Marcus can answer, Big Joe emerges from the kitchen carrying a fresh plate, burger, fries, and a slice of apple pie that definitely wasn't part of the original order, definitely wasn't expected. "Kid," Joe says, setting the food in front of Marcus with surprising gentleness, "what you did tonight took real heart, real courage." Marcus looks up, genuinely surprised. In 6 months of working here, Big Joe has never offered him anything for free, nothing. The man runs his diner like a military operation, like a fortress. Every penny accounted for, every portion measured precisely. "Mr. Joe, I can't accept this," Marcus protests weakly. "You're not accepting charity," Joe's gruff voice softens slightly unexpectedly. "You're accepting respect, recognition. There's a difference, a big difference. But the cost is mine to worry about, not yours," Joe interrupts. He pulls out the chair Linda vacated and sits down heavily with a tired sigh. "You know what I saw tonight? I saw a young man with more class, more character than customers who drive cars worth more than my entire house." Marcus takes a bite of the burger, his first real food in hours. They seemed nice enough. Just had some bad luck, terrible luck. "Bad luck," Joe nods slowly, thoughtfully. "Funny thing about bad luck, though. Sometimes it reveals good character in people, and sometimes it reveals something else entirely, something different." "What do you mean by that?" Marcus asks, curious now. Mike stands, adjusting his apron with practiced ease. "Nothing, kid. Just eat your dinner. You earned it twice over tonight, more than earned it." As Joe returns to the kitchen, Linda leans closer with a conspiratorial whisper. "He's right, you know. There was something off about those people, something strange." "Off how?" Marcus asks, suddenly paying attention. "Well, for starters, Tony told me their car started right up once they got to it," Linda says. "No engine trouble at all, nothing wrong. Just needed a simple jump," he said, like the battery had been deliberately disconnected on purpose, intentionally. Darius frowns, processing this. "That's weird, really weird." "And another thing," Linda continues. "Did you see how that old man pulled out his wallet when Tony asked for payment? A wallet thick enough to choke a horse, stuffed with cash. Funny how he couldn't find it when it came time to pay for coffee, isn't it?" The observation hits Marcus like cold water, like ice. Robert had claimed they lost their wallet completely, but he'd paid Tony without any trouble at all, without any hesitation. How do you lose a wallet and find it again in 20 minutes flat? "Maybe it was in the car all along," Marcus suggests weakly, unconvincingly. Maybe Linda doesn't sound convinced at all. Or maybe there's more to this story than meets the eye, more than we understand. The walk home takes Marcus through neighborhoods that tell the complete story of his town, the whole picture. Past the nice houses with their perfect lawns and expensive security systems. Past the apartment complexes where families like his make do with so much less, with scraps. Past the empty lots and boarded-up buildings that speak to dreams deferred, to hopes abandoned. At home, Miss Dorothy waits in her worn recliner, oxygen tank humming softly beside her like always. The late news flickers on the television, but she's not really watching, not really paying attention. "Baby, you're later than usual tonight. Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine, Grandma." Marcus tells her about the elderly couple, expecting her usual pride in his kindness, expecting approval. Instead, she listens with growing intensity, with unusual focus, asking detailed questions about their appearance, their clothes, their expensive car, every detail. "Silver hair, you said, and pale gray eyes." "Yeah, Grandma. Why, what's wrong?" Miss Dorothy reaches for the television remote and turns up the volume significantly. "Sometimes angels come disguised as people in need," she says mysteriously, testing our hearts, testing our true nature. "They weren't angels, Grandma," Marcus says, "just people having a hard night, a terrible night." "M.H.M., she pats his hand with fingers that feel paper-thin, fragile. "You keep that generous heart, Marcus. It's going to take you places you can't even imagine right now, places beyond your wildest dreams." "Places like what?" "Like wherever good people are supposed to end up eventually," she says with certainty. That night, lying in his narrow bed, Marcus replays every moment of the encounter in his mind like a movie. Robert's intense gray eyes, Catherine's mysterious portfolio with its strange contents. The way Robert's entire bearing changed when Tony arrived. The business card holder he never used. The napkin with Marcus's information treated like a valuable document, like something precious. His phone buzzes suddenly. A text from Tommy. "Heard you bought dinner for some random old folks at Parker's tonight. Man, you're going to be broke forever helping everybody like this." Marcus smiles in the darkness, alone with his thoughts. Maybe Tommy's right. Maybe kindness is a luxury he can't afford, a luxury beyond his means. But tonight, seeing gratitude replace humiliation in two strangers' eyes felt worth more than any meal he'd ever eaten, worth more than money could buy. What Marcus doesn't know is that 3 blocks away in the penthouse suite of the Grand Plaza Hotel, Robert and Catherine Harrison are reviewing a thick folder with his name clearly printed on the cover. Inside are his academic records, character references from teachers and neighbors, and a detailed report on his family situation compiled carefully over the past 3 days. Perfect score, Catherine murmurs, scanning the documents with satisfaction. Better than perfect, Robert replies, making notes in the margin with his expensive pen. He didn't just pass the test. He exceeded every expectation we had, surpassed everything. Tomorrow morning, they'll make the phone call that changes everything, the call that alters Marcus's destiny. The call that will prove sometimes, just sometimes, kindness really does get rewarded. The next morning brings questions that don't have easy answers, mysteries that need solving. Marcus arrives at Parker's diner to find Linda practically vibrating with excitement, with energy. "That couple from last night," she says breathlessly. "Tony told me something absolutely crazy." "What do you mean?" Marcus asks cautiously. When he got to their car, there was already someone waiting there, Linda explains. A driver in a black suit, professional. Standing next to a second car, an expensive one. Tony heard the old man talking about foundation protocols and candidate assessment on the phone. What kind of stranded folks talk like that? The words hit Marcus strangely, uncomfortably. Foundation protocols, candidate assessment. These aren't words stranded travelers use. During first period at school, Mrs. Henderson pulls him aside with an odd expression. "Marcus, I received a very interesting phone call this morning from someone asking about you." "What kind of call?" Marcus asks, suddenly nervous. "Someone asking about your character, your grades, your plans for college," she explains. Her voice drops lower. "They knew an awful lot about you already. They knew your exact grade point average, your job at Parker's, even that you help Mrs. Wilson carry her groceries home every Tuesday without fail." "What did they want?" "They weren't asking if you were a good student," Mrs. Henderson says carefully. "They were asking if you were a good person, a good human being. There's a difference." At lunch, Tommy finds him in the library, phone in hand, looking excited. "Yo, Marcus, you need to see this right now." He slides his phone across the table urgently. "Look at this news article just posted today." The headline reads, "Harrison Foundation announces surprise local visit." Marcus scans quickly, his heart pounding. The Harrison Foundation, worth $200 million, is conducting community assessments for a major new initiative in the area. Their CEO personally visits potential sites to evaluate them, but Marcus has stopped reading, frozen. His eyes lock on the foundation's logo, an elegant gold emblem, exactly the same logo he glimpsed in Catherine's leather portfolio last night, exactly the same. "Tommy, what does the CEO look like?" "The article mentions he's intensely private and avoids publicity photos religiously," Tommy says, confused. "Why? What's going on?" Before Marcus can answer, the intercom crackles throughout Lincoln High School with an announcement. "Marcus Thompson, please report to the principal's office immediately. This is urgent." In 6 years at Lincoln High, Marcus has never been called to the principal's office, not once. Not ever. As he walks through hallways that suddenly feel endless, students stare and whisper urgently. Teachers pause to watch him pass with curious expressions. Through the glass windows of the main office, Marcus sees Principal Rodriguez talking to 2 figures seated across from his desk. 2 very familiar figures. Robert and Catherine, but they're not the desperate travelers from last night, not at all. Robert's posture commands immediate attention, demands respect. Catherine's designer coat is immaculate, perfect. And spread across the principal's desk are official documents bearing that same gold logo Marcus just saw in the newspaper, the same emblem. His legs feel unsteady as the secretary opens the door with a knowing smile. "Mr. Thompson, they're waiting for you. Please go in." The moment Marcus steps into Principal Rodriguez's office, the world tilts sideways, reality shifts. Robert stands immediately, not the frail, stranded elderly man from Parker's diner, but someone who commands rooms with his mere presence, someone powerful. His expensive suit is immaculate, perfect. His pale gray eyes hold the sharp focus of a man, accustomed to making million-dollar decisions without hesitation. "Hello again, son," Robert says warmly. Marcus's mouth goes completely dry. "You're Robert Harrison." "I am." Robert's smile is warm but calculating, measuring. "And last night you bought dinner for one of the most powerful philanthropists in the entire state. The question is why? Why did you do it?" The room spins around him. Darius grips the back of a chair to steady himself, to ground himself. I thought you needed help. It didn't matter who you were, didn't matter at all. Exactly right, Catherine speaks for the first time, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to boardrooms and million-dollar budgets, to power. Robert, show him everything. Principal Rodriguez, who's been silent until now, slides a thick folder across his desk toward Marcus. Marcus's school photo is paperclipped to the cover along with his full name in bold letters. Marcus Thompson, candidate assessment. Complete evaluation. We've been researching you for the past 72 hours, Robert explains calmly, opening the folder to reveal page after page of documentation, of investigation. Academic transcripts with every grade highlighted. Work evaluations from Big Joe with detailed notes. Character references from teachers who praised him. Even photographs of Marcus helping elderly neighbors with their groceries, captured without his knowledge. Marcus stares at the papers, his mind struggling desperately to process what he's seeing, to understand. You've been watching me, following me. We've been evaluating you carefully, Catherine corrects gently but firmly. The Harrison Foundation is launching our most ambitious project ever, a comprehensive community development initiative worth millions. We need someone local, someone who understands real hardship but maintains hope despite everything. Someone whose character we can trust completely, absolutely. Exactly, Robert adds, turning pages in the folder methodically. Straight perfect grades despite working 20 hours a week at minimum wage. Teachers describe you as remarkably mature and genuinely compassionate about others. Your boss says you're the most reliable employee he's ever had in 15 years. Mrs. Wilson from the corner store mentions you help with her inventory every single week without being asked, without expecting payment. Catherine continues, reading from a typed report with clinical precision. Mrs. Martinez says you shovel her walkway every winter and refuse payment every time. The librarian notes you tutor struggling students during your lunch breaks without compensation. Marcus feels like he's watching this happen to someone else, like this is a dream. I don't understand any of this. You were testing me deliberately. Last night wasn't an accident at all. Robert closes the folder and looks directly into Marcus's eyes without blinking. We've been in town for 3 days asking questions, observing behavior. Your name came up repeatedly as someone who embodies the values we're looking for, the character we need. So the broken-down car was staged deliberately. Completely staged, Robert's tone is matter-of-fact, unapologetic. We needed to create a situation where you could choose kindness or indifference, where the choice would cost you something you truly valued, something precious. The lost wallet was fake. Catherine pats her coat pocket with a slight smile. Safe and sound the entire time, never lost. The betrayal hits him like a physical blow, like violence. You lied to me, you deceived me. We created a scenario, Robert corrects carefully. There's a significant difference. What we wanted to see was authentic, real. How you'd respond when you thought no one important was watching, when there was absolutely nothing in it for you personally. Principal Rodriguez leans forward with an encouraging expression. Marcus, they're offering you opportunities that could change your life completely, transform everything. What kind of opportunities, Marcus asks, though part of him isn't sure he wants to hear the answer, isn't sure he's ready. Catherine opens her leather portfolio, the same one she clutched so protectively last night, revealing documents that make Marcus's breath catch in his throat. University logos from prestigious schools, legal letterhead with impressive seals, financial statements with numbers that have too many zeros to comprehend. A full scholarship to any accredited university you choose, Robert begins, his voice taking on the tone of a business presentation, formal and precise. Tuition, room, board, books, living expenses, everything. 4 years completely covered without exception. During summers and school breaks, you'll intern directly with our foundation, Catherine continues smoothly. Learning nonprofit management, community development, social enterprise, everything you need. And after graduation, Robert smiles with genuine warmth. You'll return here as assistant director of our newest community development center. 2 years of intensive training with our established professional team. Then, if both parties agree, you become director with full authority. Marcus looks around the room, half expecting to wake up from an impossible dream, a fantasy. You want me to run a community center? We want you to help us build one first, Robert spreads architectural blueprints across the principal's desk with dramatic flair. Detailed plans for a gleaming facility that looks like something from an architecture magazine, something impossible. Catherine points to elegant lettering across the building's facade in the rendering. The Marcus Thompson Community Development Center. You want to name it after me? Marcus's voice comes out as a whisper, barely audible. We want you to be its founding director. Its heart, Robert clarifies firmly. This represents a $25 million investment in your community in this neighborhood. But we don't just write checks and disappear like most foundations. We partner with local leaders who share our vision, who understand the community. The numbers are absolutely impossible to comprehend. $25 million, more money than everyone on Cedar Avenue has seen combined in their entire lives. More money than Marcus thought existed outside of movies and lottery commercials and dreams. Why me, he asks, though he's beginning to understand now. Why choose me specifically? Because transformation has to come from within the community, Catherine explains with passion. We can build buildings, fund programs, hire staff, provide resources. But authentic change requires someone who genuinely loves their community despite its problems, despite its flaws. Harold nods with conviction. Someone who sees potential instead of just poverty. Someone who gives away their last meal to strangers because it's the right thing to do, because it's who they are. Principal Rodriguez speaks up with emotion. Marcus, in 30 years of education, I've never seen an opportunity like this, never. But Marcus is still processing the deception, still hurt. The whole thing was fake, staged. Your car, your situation, your desperation, all of it was theater. The test was real, Robert says firmly, intensely. Your response was real, genuine. Your character was real. Those are the only things that matter in the end. We've funded hundreds of projects, Catherine adds, but we've never offered full partnership to someone your age before. You'd be the youngest director in our foundation's history by a decade. Robert pulls out his real business card this time. Heavy card stock with the gold logo embossed in the corner, expensive. Take 2 weeks to think about it carefully. Visit our other community centers in other cities. Talk to people whose lives we've changed together. Make sure this aligns with your own vision, your own dreams. As he hands Marcus the card, Robert's expression softens genuinely. And son, regardless of what you decide about the center, your college tuition is covered regardless. What you did last night, giving something precious to strangers, deserves recognition no matter what happens next. Marcus stares at the business card, at the blueprints, at the impossible opportunity spread across the principal's desk like a feast. There's just one condition, Catherine says, her voice becoming serious, almost stern. You can't do this for the money or recognition or fame. You have to genuinely want to serve your community because that's the only way it works long-term. Outside the principal's office, students are changing classes, moving through their ordinary day while Marcus sits in a room where his entire future is being completely rewritten, transformed. But the biggest shock is still coming when he realizes this isn't just about him anymore. It's about everyone he's ever tried to help. Everyone he's ever dreamed of lifting up. Everyone who's ever believed that kindness matters even when no one is watching. This is about proving that sometimes, just sometimes, good people really do win in the end. 18 months later, the transformation is nothing short of miraculous, extraordinary. Where the abandoned Riverside Shopping Center once stood empty, the Marcus Thompson Community Development Center rises like a beacon of hope and possibility. Glass walls reflect morning sunlight beautifully. Modern architecture blends seamlessly with the neighborhood's character, and everywhere people move with purpose and hope. Marcus, now 20 years old and a sophomore at State University studying nonprofit management, spends winter break overseeing the center's grand opening preparations with careful attention. He's taller somehow, carries himself with quiet confidence earned through experience, but his eyes still hold the same kindness that caught Robert's attention that rainy night. The medical clinic opened 6 months ago and immediately changed everything for the community. Dr. Sarah Chen has already seen over 800 patients in desperate need. Miss Dorothy is among them, healthier now, her diabetes under control with proper medication, her arthritis managed with professional physical therapy, her oxygen tank retired for good, no longer needed. Baby, Miss Dorothy says, sitting on their newly renovated porch. You see that sign up there? The massive banner reads Marcus Thompson Community Development Center, transforming lives together. Still feels like someone else's name, Marcus admits honestly. It's the name of the man you became when you chose kindness over convenience, Miss Dorothy says with pride. Inside the center, the computer lab buzzes with productive activity. 30 adults learn skills that actually lead to real employment, to real jobs. Mrs. Wilson discovers she has a natural gift for digital inventory management systems. Tommy's mother enrolls in graphic design courses and lands her first freelance client within just 2 months. The job training programs exceed every single projection, every expectation. Automotive repair, culinary arts, healthcare administration, all leading to industry certifications that employers actually want, actually value. Lincoln High's test scores jumped 22% in just the first year. Students now have quiet study spaces, modern computers, and tutoring programs staffed by college students who look like them, who understand them. The center's commercial kitchen became something unexpected, something special. Big Joe expands his catering business, hiring 6 new employees from the job training program. Linda opens her own restaurant, a small, cozy cafe inside the center serving the community. Local news coverage brings state attention, brings recognition. Channel 7 features the Marcus effect, documenting how one center sparked transformation throughout the entire neighborhood. Property values on Cedar Avenue rise as abandoned houses get renovated by residents who learned construction skills at the center. The governor visits for the ribbon-cutting ceremony, impressed. The Harrison Foundation model proves that sustainable change requires local leadership supported by strategic investment, not just money thrown at problems. We're implementing similar partnerships in 5 additional communities statewide. But the real stories happen quietly, without cameras. Elderly residents get regular medical checkups that save lives. Teenagers choose study groups over street corners and trouble. Small businesses launch, creating jobs for neighbors who'd given up hope entirely. Crime drops 18% in the first year, not because of increased security, but because people have better things to do, better options, real hope. Robert and Catherine attend every milestone, every celebration, but they stand in the back, letting Marcus and the community take center stage, letting them shine. In his ribbon-cutting speech, Marcus thanks them genuinely, but focuses on neighbors who made the vision real, who did the work. This center exists because Mrs. Henderson believed in her students when others didn't, because Big Joe showed kindness to a kid who washed dishes. Because Miss Dorothy taught me that generosity multiplies when you share it freely with others. The applause echoes off the glass walls, powerful and real. But Marcus notices Robert wiping his eyes with emotion. A reporter approaches Marcus afterward with a microphone. What's next for the center? What are your future plans? Sustainability, Marcus answers thoughtfully. We're not just providing services to people. We're teaching people to provide services for each other to help themselves. In 5 years, this community won't need us anymore. They'll be helping other communities instead, paying it forward. That's an unusual goal for a nonprofit director, the reporter observes skeptically. The goal was never to create dependency on handouts, Marcus explains. It was to create capacity, to build strength. There's a significant difference between the two. 6 months after opening, that difference becomes crystal clear, undeniable. The center's programs have generated 43 new jobs, launched 12 small businesses, and placed 67 people in full-time employment outside the community in real careers. But the most important number is one act of kindness that multiplied into thousands. What nobody could have predicted was what would happen next when Marcus faced his first real test as a leader, proving that character under pressure looks exactly like character under poverty, exactly the same. 2 years later, Marcus, now 22 and the center's official director, sits in his office reviewing applications for the foundation's newest scholarship program. Through his window, he watches children play in the center's playground while their parents attend classes inside, improving their lives. His office walls tell the story of transformation clearly, framed photos of the center's construction process, the first graduating class of the culinary program celebrating, Miss Dorothy cutting the ribbon at the medical clinic's expansion. Robert and Catherine at last month's community appreciation dinner smiling proudly. A soft knock interrupts his thoughts suddenly. Linda from Parker's diner peers in, nervous but determined. "Marcus, I'm sorry to bother you during work, but there's a family at the diner right now. They're stranded, car broke down, and they can't pay for their meal. I remembered what you did that night and thought maybe you could help them." Marcus smiles warmly, closing his laptop without hesitation. "I'll be right there." Parker's diner looks exactly the same as it always has. Fluorescent lights, worn booths, the familiar smell of coffee and possibility. But the corner booth where Robert and Catherine once sat now holds a young family, a couple with two small children huddled together, speaking in worried whispers. The woman apologizes in broken English while her husband counts pocket change with shaking hands. Their clothes are travel-worn and dirty. Their eyes hold that familiar mixture of pride and desperation that Marcus remembers too well, that he understands completely. "Folks," Marcus says, approaching their table with two meals from the counter, "this one's on me tonight. Please eat." As they eat gratefully, hungrily, he learns their story. Miguel and Rosa migrating north for construction work promised by Rosa's cousin. Their car broke down on the interstate, their savings barely enough for the towing fee. They have skills, Miguel in construction, Rosa in childcare, but no connections, no references, no way to prove their worth to potential employers who won't give them a chance. "You know," Marcus says thoughtfully, "we're always looking for good people at the community center. Can't promise anything permanent right away, but maybe we can help you get started, give you a chance." He pulls out his business card, simple, professional, with the center's gold logo embossed on it. On the back, he writes their names carefully, just as Robert once wrote his all those years ago. "Miguel and Rosa Santos," he says aloud, the same way Robert once repeated his name with the same respect. "And your phone number, please?" 2 hours later, Miguel is reviewing job opportunities in the center's construction training program with enthusiasm. Rosa is discussing childcare positions with the center's family services coordinator excitedly. Their children are already making friends in the youth program, laughing and playing. That evening, Robert calls to check on the center's quarterly progress as he always does. "How are things going, Director Thompson?" "Good," Marcus replies, watching Miguel help other job training students with electrical wiring while Rosa organizes the children's play area naturally. "Really good. I think I'm starting to understand something you told me once." "What's that?" Robert asks curiously. "Kindness is the only investment that always pays dividends, always returns more than you give." Robert chuckles warmly on the other end. "And what's your return rate so far?" Marcus looks out at the thriving center, thinks about Miss Dorothy's renewed health, Tommy's college acceptance letter, the 43 jobs created, the 12 businesses launched, the thousands of lives touched by this place. "Immeasurable," he says honestly. "Absolutely immeasurable." That night, as Marcus walks home past the bustling community center that bears his name, he realizes the most important lesson of all, the truth that matters most. Transformation isn't a destination you reach. It's a choice you make every single day, one act of kindness at a time. The Marcus Thompson Community Development Center now serves over 4,000 people annually, proving that when kindness meets opportunity, entire communities can transform completely. But this story isn't unique or special. It's happening in neighborhoods across America right now, led by ordinary people who choose extraordinary compassion daily. Right now in your own community, someone like Marcus is washing dishes after school, helping elderly neighbors without being asked, believing in possibilities others can't see yet. They're not waiting for permission to make a difference. They're already doing it, one small act at a time. What if your kindness could unlock someone's potential? What if a stranger's generosity could change your trajectory completely? Here's what I want you to do right now. Think about one person in your life who showed you unexpected kindness when you needed it most. Share their story in the comments below. Let's remind each other that transformation starts with seeing the person, not their circumstances. Like this video if you believe kindness still matters in this world. Subscribe for more real-life stories that prove ordinary people create extraordinary change every single day. Because somewhere tonight, someone is choosing kindness over indifference and changing the world one heart at a time.